first. I'm Mark Eichman, along with Michelle Polston and Shirley Min. If you've been stuck in a road construction delay lately, it's not your imagination. This week, the roadmap to rebuilding Delaware's infrastructure.
The roadmap to health care may seem a bit more unsettled after the election, but the bottom line is nothing has changed. So if you want to sign up, now is the time.
And we're going house hunting this week on First. Not for people, it's all about the birds. These houses will have you doing a double take. First, your public media news magazine starts now.
We've almost made it to the Thanksgiving holiday, a time when many Delawareans will be packing up the car and heading on the road to visit friends and family. But they're slow going on some of those roads. In this week's First Look, we examine the progress the state is making on some of those construction projects and what drivers can expect in the near future. It's been a wild year for Delaware drivers. In September, we saw thousands of pennies strewn across the highway after a truck headed to the U.S. Mint overturned on I-95. A truck hauling cows overturned in that same spot near Route 141 in October. And earlier in October, another truck carrying live chickens overturned on Route 1 near Smyrna. Now this week, thousands of Thanksgiving travelers are expected to hit Delaware's roads. AAA Mid-Atlantic projects a big increase in holiday travel this year.
More than 130,000 motorists from Delaware are expected to be on the roadways this Thanksgiving weekend.
That's an increase of 2.5% over last year, and those drivers will enjoy the lowest gas prices since 2008, especially helpful for Delaware drivers who are enjoying the lowest gas prices in the region since New Jersey increased its gas tax.
One of the things that we see as a steady predictor is gas prices. Gas prices are down this year as they were last year. We're looking at a relatively better economy. So yes, we're looking at probably 14% of the state of Delaware traveling this Thanksgiving holiday.
Nationally, more than 48 million Americans are expected to be on the roads, an increase of more than 1 million travelers compared to last year, and the most Thanksgiving travelers since 2007. In Delaware, those drivers may not see much construction work being done because the Department of Transportation is suspending work for the holiday. But once the holiday break is over, there is plenty of work being done on the state's roads. DelDOT is rebuilding the Route 141 overpass on top of I-95. It's a project that's caused major headaches for commuters, but shouldn't slow holiday travelers. The work is the latest project designed to improve the flow of traffic near I-95. Also on 95, workers have been replacing a bridge at the Route 1 and 7 interchange near the Christiana Mall. And while those repair and replacement projects are underway, the biggest road construction project in the state is moving forward just below the canal. The Route 301 project is the biggest construction project in Delaware since the completion of Route 1 in 2003.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Earlier this year, state leaders broke ground in Middletown on the massive project to extend 301 as a 4-lane highway over a stretch of 14 miles from the Maryland-Delaware border to Route 1 just below the C&D Canal. It's a project that's been discussed since the 60s.
For years and years, and people have corrected me, actually decades, we've talked about this, we've struggled with alignments, we've worked on the financing, and today this project is clear, it's crystal, and we are ready to go. So we're super, super excited about that.
This is a very exciting project. It is one that we have been talking about literally from my first day as governor and for years before that. It's going to bring so many benefits to the area. Less congestion, better safety, more economic development. That's what I call a win-win-win.
All this dirt moving and building is designed to eventually reduce traffic, especially truck traffic, through the Middletown area by at least 20%. It comes at a cost of nearly $500 million and is expected to open to drivers in December 2018. The 301 project has been split into multiple contracts with separate companies working at the same time on different legs of the new highway. So there's a total of 7 different contracts totaling nearly $500 million. The work is expected to create more than 5,000 jobs.
So this is a pretty expensive project, Mark. Where's the funding coming from?
Yeah, really expensive. And that's kind of the reason that this has been talked about for a long time, but never really acted on until now. But DelDOT is getting more than $200 million in the form of a federal TIFIA loan. TIFIA stands for the Transportation Infrastructure Finance and Innovation Act. And it's designed to help fund projects that are of regional and national significance, and 301 qualifies for that. So the new 301 will also be a toll road, so it'll get some of the funding back from that revenue to help pay for the road. When it's all said and done, the road is designed to improve safety as well as ease congestion, which if you've driven in the Middletown area, as we all have, that will be a much welcome improvement. There have been some temporary detours, and some longer-term road closures are coming as a result of all this work, but it shouldn't cause any problems for people traveling for the Thanksgiving holiday.
Okay, well, thanks, Mark. Between holiday travel and the shopping season, there will be a lot of people on the roads. Check out del.gov for traffic cameras. You can also get traffic reports on WHYY FM 90.9. This is also the time of year for open enrollment under the Affordable Care Act between now and the end of January 1st. While some may wonder about the future of Obamacare, nothing changes today. That's why it's important to take advantage of the help out there that is available. More than 25,000 people enrolled in Delaware's healthcare exchange in 2016. There are only 2 companies to choose from, Highmark, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and Aetna. But from there, the choices get a little more complicated.
I think there's a lot of confusion. We know there's a lot of confusion about healthcare terminology and really understanding what's the difference between co-payment and co-insurance, in-network, out-of-network, when a deductible, when you have to pay a deductible, and when services are provided without having to pay a deductible.
Maria Papitas from the University of Delaware's Cooperative Extension reviews those issues and a lot more in her Smart Choice classes. Attendees also learn how to comparison shop and integrate their choice into their budget.
The way we do that in the classroom is through a case study, and we walk people through a case study of a family of 3, with a rambunctious youngster who's always getting hurt, and so there's ER costs and urgent care costs, and looking at sort of all the out-of-pocket costs when it comes to making a healthcare choice, not just the premium and the deductible, which is the way most consumers make a decision about which plan they pick.
Free Smart Choice classes are hosted at many locations across the state, including local libraries. As Kimmy Moore learned, choosing a health plan without some guidance can be daunting.
When I got my full-time job, I was like, this is so exciting. And then the health insurance portion came, and it's like a whole other section of having a job. There's so much to do, so much to understand. It was really difficult at first.
One of the payoffs of taking the class is peace of mind, which Moore can attest to.
After going to the class, like I said, I felt like a weight had been lifted. I really felt the choice that I made was the best for me, and I wasn't afraid that I was going to be paying too much money for a healthcare service in the future, or that I was just going to be in financial trouble because of the choice I made.
In addition to the classes, Laura Howard, the executive director of Delaware's Healthcare Commission, says health partners around the state are also available to help subscribers find the right plan.
We have Westside Family Healthcare as well as Chapman LLC, and these organizations receive federal funds, and they have navigators out in the community. They do outreach, and they're able to enroll consumers as well as give them guidance, answer questions, and help them even after the enrollment period ends.
There's a large negotiating pool. Last weekend on CBS 60 Minutes, President-elect Donald Trump told Leslie Stahl that he liked 2 points of the Affordable Care Act. He hopes to keep the no pre-existing conditions part of the law, and the dependents can stay until they are 26 as part of their parents' plan. As for Delaware, Consumers should continue to view the plans on the marketplace and sign up or renew their coverage during the open enrollment period. More than 100,000 people signed up for health insurance through the marketplace the day after the election.
I am so excited to get to work with Governor.
Coming up on First, one more word to say about election night. It's next on State of Play. And doesn't this look like the perfect starter home? It's not quite 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, but for birds, it's a great experience.
Half of the nation, and really most of the media, is still trying to get their heads around the election of 2016. Not enough about President-elect Donald Trump. Let's talk about Delaware, and joining us to do that is Steve Tanzer, who writes with DelawareLiberal.net. Thanks for being here, Steve.
My pleasure.
So let's start with the biggest upset of election night in Delaware, because things pretty much went as expected, except for Senate President Pro-tem Patty Blevins, who lost to Anthony Del Collo, a Republican. Really, that was the big story of the night here in Delaware as far as surprises.
It was the only surprise. I mean, there were no other surprises in the election results at all. Very interesting race. The Republicans had put up a slate of like 4 young challengers to incumbents, and this was probably the one I would have least expected to flip. What happened is I found out just checking around after the election was this was a very intense election. It was very much of an in-your-face election. Anthony Del Collo, for example, would put up signs next to Patty Blevins' sign saying career politician with an arrow pointing to the sign. Right. Very doctrinaire election as well. It was all about change without really being all that specific. Now, Del Collo is more of quite a conservative in the sense he's a strong Second Amendment guy, very bright guy, an attorney. And it'll be interesting to see how he fares down there, because you can run that change mantra once, but we'll see what happens from here on in. Right. But clearly, that has thrown the entire Senate into disarray in the sense that there's a legitimate question as to whether the Democrats will even control the Senate come next March. This coming March, there will be a special election to replace Bethany Hall-Long, who is now the Lieutenant Governor-elect.
Which you pointed out, I think, the last time you were here, that there would be that if she were to win, and she did.
Yeah, and I mean, I believe that all of the momentum's with the Republicans. They won that race. The Democrats will be defending a seat. Democrats are looking at 3 prospective candidates, none of whom jump out at you as being unbeatable in any sense of the word. You've got State Representative Quinn Johnson. You've got State Representative Earl Jakes, and you have the current Clerk of the Peace, Ken Bolden, who, to my knowledge, has never had a public utterance on a policy at all. He's a really likable guy, sure, but is not someone who really has been in the public policy area of government. So that's what's going to happen. Bethany Hall-Long can stay in the Senate even into the beginning of this new legislative session, because the lieutenant governor and governor are actually inaugurated after the General Assembly has already been sworn in. So she'll leave her post once she's sworn in, and I suspect that Governor Carney at that time will announce a special election that will take place sometime during the 6-week break for the Joint Finance Committee hearings, end of January through the middle of March.
All right, well, let's hear from the Republicans. We have a clip from Charlie Copeland that our producer Andrea Gibbs got on election night at their headquarters at the Grotto's Pizza in Dover. Let's take a listen to Charlie Copeland.
We ran 4 state Senate millennial candidates whose average age was only a year larger than the average tenure of the Democrat they ran against. And one of those millennial candidates beat the pro-tem in the state Senate, a long-serving, powerful Democrat, and Anthony Del Collo beat her. And now the state Senate is 11-10.
So kind of to your point that it really is up in the air where the Senate goes. And it's been a long time since Republicans have been in a majority in either House or Senate.
Well, not so much the House. The House really only went Democratic back in, I believe it was 2010.
Okay.
However, the Senate, I worked in the Senate for 20 years,
right,
and it was Democratic the whole time.
Right.
Now, one of the main reasons why the body is now at risk or in question is because when I was in the Senate, there were times when most of the time, there were 4 senators from Sussex County, all of whom were Democrats.
Right.
There are 4 senators from Sussex County now, all of whom are Republicans. And I mean, if you take a look at the results in the county, other than the area east of Route 1, I mean, it's solid Republican territory. Sussex County went for Donald Trump by 23,000 votes, for example, in this last presidential election. So it is true. The Democrats, I believe, have also missed an opportunity. They really have not done the proper candidate recruitment recently. I had said on the blog that this year alone, there was one seat in particular. It was political malpractice, not to challenge. And that was Dave Lawson. He's a senator from westernmost Kent County, which is a conservative area. However, 4 years ago, he almost lost to a neophyte, a newcomer who came within like 1.5% of beating him. And this year, the Democrats chose not to even run anybody against him. That's political malpractice, and you reap what you sow.
So do you see, it's sometimes hard to see Republicans, especially statewide, making inroads in such a Democratic state, but is this sort of tortoise versus the hare kind of theory and practice that Copeland is running for the party to kind of pick up seat here and seat there, having an impact on the makeup of the General Assembly, that the Republicans, because of the Southern growth of the Republican Party, making an impact and going to swing things in the next several years?
Clearly, the Senate is and will continue to be at risk. Although I found his remarks a little ironic, because if you take a look at people, for example, like Colin Bonini, Greg Lavelle, am I forgetting? Gerald Hocker, several others. These are people who have been in the General Assembly for a long, long time. It's not as if one party is suffused with all this young blood and another party is basically running geriatric patients. Although you're going to see a huge swing in the Democrats in the next few years, because I fully expect Senator Bob Marshall will not run for re-election. I don't think that Margaret Rose Henry is going to run for re-election. Those are not seats that are really necessarily in play for the Republicans. Right. But you will get at least some younger people in those particular positions.
We'll be watching. Steve, thanks so much for your insight. We really appreciate it. Steve Tanzer, DelawareLiberal.net. His blog is dedicated to this conversation right now, so check it out. Steve, thanks again for being here.
Did you come in on the middle of that last conversation? Go to WHYY.org/first to watch the beginning of the program. Past shows are there as well. It's a good place to catch up on all things Delaware. No matter what side of the political spectrum you're on, all eyes are on President-elect Donald Trump to see what he'll do when he takes office in January. Much of that will focus on the economy. In his monthly segment, contributor Dace Blaskovitz talks to University of Delaware political science professor Chris Cunahan on what a Trump presidency could mean in Delaware and around the world.
Welcome to the segment.
Thanks for having me.
Big picture. First question. Delaware is our focus on this program. What does probably, might, should, could, what does a President Trump mean to Delaware?
I think the first and foremost thing is nobody knows. And that's what makes it so interesting. But one of the things that I'm really interested in is the way that Delaware has always been sort of the home of incorporation throughout the U.S. Recently, we've been trying to expand into more of a global market. We have a website the state has a website that has 10 different languages to help international companies form here in Delaware. The question is, will this Trump administration, President Trump, will he help or will he hurt that? Will there be more of a desire to come to the United States and form a company through Delaware or not? That's something that we'll have to see in the future, but I think it's very, very interesting going forward.
The key issue for you, if I understand it correctly, as a professor and as an academic, since World War II, arguably the U.S. has been the alpha role, if you will, the policeman or policewoman. Candidate Trump has vowed to abandon or at least dilute that. What does that mean?
Again, we have no idea. For the last 70 years, the United States has been the benevolent hegemon. the world's policeman, the leader of the free world. And to move away from that, the last time we did that, we were basically offered that position at the end of World War I, and instead we turned inward and towards isolation, and World War II, many people said, was the result of it. So giving up our position in the international space as the leader is something we really don't know. We haven't been there in a very long time, and it could be very dangerous. So it's something going forward that we really need to worry about. Personally, I think the United States, the world, is better having the United States as a policeman. Someone has to play that role. And if it's not us, do you trust Russia to do it? Do you trust China? Who has the capability? I don't believe that Europe is ready internally, doesn't have the capacity to do that. So who do you want to have if not us?
Let's do a lightning round, if you will. Let's do the headlines with that lightning round. China.
China, I think the South China Sea is the most important thing. What happens with our trading relationship? We have a deal with them. We buy so much of their stuff and they buy so much of our debt. So what does that look like going forward? There's mutual vulnerabilities there that we have to be very careful of. Iran, the nuclear deal, it's not a treaty. It's an executive order. So it can be as easily undone as it is done. There are 4 or 5 other countries involved in this. They may want to go forward, but Madeleine Albright said that we were the indispensable country and that no deal could work without us. We're about to find out.
Mexico,
the wall. Part of Mexico's constitution is the right of free movement for the Mexican citizens. So they will never submit to a wall. It's in their constitution. But we could always build it, and he could design something more of a fence or a garden hose, whatever it is, and it'll satisfy his campaign promise. The question is, does it stop illegal immigration, undocumented migration? Truth is, it hasn't really been happening much since 2008 because of the lack of economic expansion here in the United States. So it may be a moot point.
Let's wrap it up here. But again, a big picture question, and again, another passion item for you. Soft power as opposed to hard power. First of all, what are we talking about? And then your thoughts.
So hard power is military coercion. It's forcing people, other countries, to do what you want them to do, or using very strong aspects of economic sanctions to achieve what you want. Soft power is the idea that you have attractive values and culture and ideas, and you get other countries to want what you want. Hard power, blood and treasure, even when you're successful, when you deploy it, it's expensive to rebuild. So hard power assets are very difficult. Soft power, the more you use them, the more you get. They're almost infinite. They expand. And so a lot of people have said recently that soft power is the more powerful form of power. And if we are no longer as attractive in our ideals as we have been to the rest of the world, then do we lose a lot of that soft power? And therefore, do we have to move more towards hard power? And it just is a very expensive course to follow.
You've been great. Fascinating times we live in. Thanks again.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely, bud.
Delaware is still making its own play to be in the world economy. This week, Governor Jack Markell led a bipartisan group of state legislators from around the country to discuss better business relationships with India. We'll be reporting on that project through the pages of newsworks.org/Delaware. One other note about Dace, he is paid as a part-time consultant with the Caesar Rodney Institute.
For over 25 years, Thomas Burke built homes in Delaware with his father. Thomas Burke continued to build houses, but with a twist. Burke builds birdhouses, but not your run-of-the-mill birdhouses. First Experience visits Tom's workshop, which is located in the parking garage of his Wilmington condo building.
My name's Tom Burke. I build birdhouses. I started 14, 15 years ago building a birdhouse for a girlfriend. And her mother liked it so much that I built one for the mother's friend up in Southampton, Long Island. And that's where I sort of started. I've done 147 houses so far. My houses are not architectural scale. I call it a whimsical scale. Sometimes I start with pictures of the house. When I first started this, I used to go through Architectural Digest magazines and take the house on the cover of the magazine, draw it out as a blueprint and a birdhouse. I'm here every day, 8 o'clock, 8:30. And I'm down here until 3 o'clock. I had one person once who I put a copper roof on their birdhouse. And about 2 years later, I drove by, there was a copper roof on the real house because the lady liked the copper roof so much. I don't know if it's really done until I put it on the post at the person's house and see it 8 feet up in the air. So a lot of times I'll get there and realize I haven't painted the bottom of all the little perches, or I haven't painted the bottom of the house, or somebody say you have to do it, or you might be missing a gutter, a downspout, or something. I have a Piet Mondrian birdhouses. I'm doing some that look like Jackson Pollock's drip paintings. I have a couple that are Frank Lloyd Wright design inspired birdhouses. I want this to be artwork. It's American folk art. I love the houses inspired by people's homes, but I want to do something from up top here. When people ask me what I do, I say I build birdhouses. I like it. It's fun. Everybody likes the houses. When the birds are flying in and out, it's fun to do. And people stop and take pictures. I just enjoy doing it. It's fun.
One of the most famous birdhouses Thomas Burke made was for George Lucas. It is a model of his Skywalker Ranch that George's wife purchased as a gift for Lucas. You can find more information on Thomas and his work when you visit him on the web at tfburkebirdhomes.com.
And next week we're on holiday. We are taking the week off, but we invite you to watch our Veterans Coming Home special. Just go to newsworks.org, look for the drop-down menu, and then click on Veterans Coming Home.
And it really is a worthwhile project. That is first for this week. We thank you for watching. For Shirley Min and Michelle Polston, I'm Mark Eichman. Have a great week. Have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll see you again on December 2nd.
Thank you.